Okie dokie, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this live stream. I'm currently in my backyard, about to do some coding. Gonna crack open a cold beverage of the bubbly. So, in the previous lesson, well, first of all, I'm using obviously a different setup. I'm using some regular old headphones here. So you'll have to let me know if the sound is terrible or something, or if there's an echo, or any technical issues. Let me know in the chat. But in the previous lesson, we were working on a new piece of functionality within the Professo application, which reminds me, I just need to do something real quick. I need to tunnel in to have my database tunnel in so that I should be able to start this Professo application up. So yeah, to the people who are watching this right now, let me know if you can hear me properly, if I'm too loud, too quiet, sound okay, sound terrible, etc., etc. Please and thank you. But in the yeah, so here we go. We booted this up. So in the previous lesson, we were talking about the Professo application. Oh, and I just realized I'm gonna have to share another window. Sorry, this is a technical issue now. I need to be able to add another window capture. We'll call this the browser. I need to be able to share my browser, which I guess is this one. Sorry guys. I think this is it. How come it's not showing me anything? If I say go, do I need to like bring it to the front or something? Sorry, I see that it's just blacked out the screen. I think, no, that's not right. How come I can't see the browser? That's annoying because it says, sorry, this is going to be a technical difficulty Friday. Let's check. Once I get this figured out, because yeah, I forgot I need to actually display the, oh, here we go, browser. Let's do that. Oh, I see. It's like well, that's not exactly what I want to do. No, I've just added a browser source. Sorry, guys. I'm newish to this software, so let's see. Display capture, image media. Yeah, I want to display a window, as and the Brave browser is the only one. Maybe okay. So let me remove this. Let me try to go to the. I guess I won't be saving this for later. This will just be whoever's on this stream can watch the stream once, and that'll be it because this is not good enough to upload. Let me see if I can show. Yeah, there you go. Firefox works. Sweet. And then I'll need to bring my my window up to the front. What is it? Video capture device to the front. There we go. Sweet. So for whatever reason, Brave browser doesn't work for displaying this stuff. Okay, cool. So thank you for the two viewers who've been sticking around. Again, tell me if you can hear me. Um, is the audio okay? So let me load up localhost 8080. This will bring up the Professo. There we go. Now we should be able to see this. So for the Professo application, we were introducing the concept of a um, evergreening functionality. So what that would do is if I log in as oh shoot, I've got the wrong logins now. Let me log in as, I should be able to say crafty coder. This should be the right password. Hopefully it is. There we go, save. So within here, when we add a new course, for instance, if I go to my courses, which are courses that I quote unquote own, and if I click on a course and take a look at what's going on in the course, on the left hand side, on the left pane here, we see all the lessons, right? So we have all these lessons that we can take part in. Now, the whole point of, oh, thank you, Patty. Nice to be outside for a change of scenery. Yes, I know. Ah, it's nice outside. So again, sorry for all the difficulties. Thank you for sticking with me. Should be a little bit nicer now going forward. So along the left-hand side here, we see the Mars rover API course, and we see all the lessons along the left-hand side. Um, the whole point of this, whatchamacallit, new feature that we're adding here is to um, limit the number of lessons that a student can see based on when they join the course. Okay, so the real world application here is, hey, for week one of the lessons, you should be, or week one of the course, you should be able to see, the first module. Okay, for week two, you see the next module. For week three, you see the next module, et cetera, et cetera. That's the concept, which I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with at this point. It's not anything out of the ordinary. But the Professor platform, which is what I built from scratch using Java and Spring Boot, et cetera, it does not have this functionality. So in the previous lesson, if you guys didn't attend, what I did was I went through some of the files where I figured, we need to make some changes, and I added little to-do items. Okay, so these little to-dos. Now these to-do comments will appear if you're using the Spring. Oh, hold on a second. Shoot. Does this? Let me just double check. So if I flip over to my IDE, does my IDE show up when I? No, it doesn't. Oh, or maybe it does. I just want to make sure that when I minimize Firefox, you guys can actually see the code. And I'm on a delay, so I don't think you guys can see the code when I minimize Firefox and bring up the Professor platform. So shoot, I'm gonna have to remember to switch between capture devices. That is annoying. Ooh, is there a way to? Sorry, again, technical issues. Yay. Um, is there a way to? Yeah, edit the order of these things. Scale filtering. I think I'm gonna have to remember to flip between them. That's gonna be super annoying. Okay, so I'll do this. There we go. So that's just me manually having to do it. So in the code, um, we have like I said, these little to-do items here. So inside of Professor, we have the code, and there's the to-do items. And when you add a to-do comment like this, it opens, or it puts a little placeholder in the tasks window. So if you go to Window and say Show View, there's a task list view, and the task list view. Why doesn't it appear in there? Is it not this task list? Maybe it's a different window. One second. Show view. Maybe it's just tasks. Yeah, it's tasks. How deceptive is that? Task list versus tasks. Um, anyway, here are my sort of tasks. I guess I could put it at the bottom here. Maybe it's a better spot for it. Here are the different tasks that I have to do at the bottom of the screen. If you're looking at this on a mobile device, it's going to be hard to read the tasks and everything at the bottom. I always recommend you do not watch on a mobile device, but instead on a tablet or desktop or full screen, obviously. Anyway, here's what we need to do to get this Evergreen functionality up and running. So there's probably the place that makes the most sense to start is probably the database part of things. So that's sort of where I'm looking right now. At the lesson, there's the to-dos in the lesson object, which is an entity, which represents a database table. That's sort of where we can get started to do this sort of fancy, what I call Evergreen Release object. So I'll have to create an Evergreen Release object and have a relationship be established between that and the lesson class. So probably a one-to-one relationship between a lesson and an Evergreen release. Okay, so let's get going with this. First things first, let's uncomment this. So now we have this private Evergreen release instance variable is what it's called. but there is no Evergreen Release object. So let's go ahead and create that. Now, this is going to have to represent a database table. So let's go ahead and hover over it and say create class. And I'm just going to put it in the .domain package. Everything is in the domain package right now. It's not well organized. Usually you would break it up into sub packages. Like you wouldn't just say .domain, you would split it up into, I don't know, the teachers section and the student section, because that's a kind of natural split between the two in terms of the in terms of my application. But I'll just put it all in the domain package. So as you can see, the Evergreen Release here is one of very many uh, objects in this .domain package. So we'll always remember to immediately annotate it, because I always forget to do that. Immediately annotate it with whatever class level annotation it should be, whether it's a controller or a repository or a service or what have you. In this case, an entity. Got to remember to do that first. Now, the hard thing for me to remember is how you do a one-to-one relationship mapping with Hibernate or JPA. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Let me see if there's another one, if there's another one-to-one relationship here that I can see and use as a example. Review to user. No, a user can leave many reviews, so that's not the right one. Course. Well, maybe course. No, because our course can have many reviews. No, so that's not the right one-to-one. I think what I'll just have to do is fall back to using. Hey, big Leo, always a pleasure. So I'm gonna have to do a search on the Google, because I can't remember off the top of my head. And when I search on Google, I need to remember to switch my sources so that you guys can see the Google capture method. Sorry, let me switch the two windows. So annoying, I have to do this manually. Okay, so let's do a JPA Java one-to-one, something like that. I could really just go to my own article. I think I've written my own article in here, but I'm not the first to show up on Google. So let's see, entity. So we have an example of a user. What's the model here? User into address. Okay, so user to address is their example. The user has an ID, and here's the address. So you have one-to-one with a cascade, join column, referenced column name. Okay. Getters and setters. Then we have address, which has an ID mapped by, because that's the owning side. The owning side has the mapped by. Using a shared primary key. Is this not using a shared primary key? Because I do want to use a shared primary key, right? That's the whole point of a one-to-one. Does this guy not have? Yeah, this guy has its own ID. So yeah, I don't like that. I want to use a shared ID. So in other words, the user ID becomes not only the foreign key, but also the primary key of the next table. Okay. So yeah, how do we do that? One-to-one. User, sorry, I have a bee flying around me right now. Get out of here. So users one-to-one mapped by, so the users becomes the owning side. Let's see. Address. Right, maps ID. Right. I remember that now. Okay, so I'll leave this here as a little resource for me to come back to. So let's go to Evergreen Release. So Evergreen Release will have private, long. Now remember, this is going to have not only is, so normally I would just say like ID or, Evergreen Release ID or something like that. But this primary key is actually going to be the primary key of the parent table, which is going to be the lesson. So this is actually going to be a lesson ID, okay? Which is a little bit odd. It might feel weird to type in lesson ID as the primary key for something that doesn't really relate to a lesson directly. Well, it does relate, but you get the idea, hopefully. So what I wanted to put into this Evergreen Release is these two uh, properties, and I'll explain what they are. I'll cut them out and paste them into here. Oh, I just copied again. Fail, cut, paste. Wait, am I not, am I sharing the right? Yes, I'm sharing the code. I was like, oh no, am I sharing the, what you call it, screen? I'm going to mess up. I'm going to be talking about the code screen. I'm going to be looking at my code and coding away, and it's going to be showing you the browser, and you guys are going to be like, wait, I can't see the code. And I'm going to have to, anyway. Okay, so actually, let me roll that back to the local time. So what we're going to have here is the concept is evergreen offset days and evergreen offset time. So what these two fields represent are evergreen offset days represents essentially when a particular lesson, at least this lesson that we're going to be talking about, whichever lesson um, is being stored in the database that we are referring to, that lesson will be unlocked X number of days, being the evergreen number of offset days, uh, will be unlocked based on those number of days since a particular student has purchased this course. So when a student logs in, we'll know that they're logged in. So let's say I log in. I have an order date from when I ordered the course, from when I purchased the course. So that's my start date. And the number of evergreen offset days represents the number of days from that start date uh, to which or whatever the lesson should get unlocked, and therefore the user should be able to see it. And same goes for evergreen offset time. Okay, and I'm going to use the local time, what you call it, data type. This might not work for Hibernate because this is an older code base. This professional platform was built like 10 years or 5 years ago. So this local time might not have even been in existence when I started building the professional platform. I think it was, but we'll see. So given that, we'll create our getters and setters. And from there, we will do our annotations. This guy is 1 to 1. And maps ID. And what was the 1 to 1? Let me flip back to, I'm going to flip back to, what you call it, Firefox. You guys aren't going to see this, but that's okay. I'm just using it as a reference. Um, so on the address side, which is the user to address, they use just 1 to 1 in maps ID. So actually exactly what I typed in here. This is exactly what the example uses. So there you go. And then from there, we will go on to use, or what you call it, lesson ID. Ooh, hold on. I don't know if this should be just a long data type because this isn't going to work. You can't use a 1 to 1. You can't have a relationship tag or annotation um, with a built-in data type. Long is built into the Java language. So this actually needs to be my object type, my lesson type. And we probably need to call it lesson, not lesson ID, right? Just like they use address. Let me just double check what they did. Um, yeah, exactly. They did. So they said, should just be lesson. So let me delete this getter setter for the lesson ID long type, and let me inject the lesson type. Here we go. Move that up. So on the getter method, we will put the 1 to 1 in maps ID. There we go. And then on the flip side, so back to the lesson side of things. So lesson is the parent in this case. The other one, the Evergreen Release, what was it called? Evergreen Release object type is the child type. So lesson is the parent. So we already have Evergreen Release in here. Let me just double check my phone is making noises. Oh, a package shipped. Woohoo! Thank you, global pandemic. My we order so much stuff now off of Amazon. But anyway, Evergreen Release is here. So now we need to have a getter and setter because it's underlined in yellow. And let's scroll down to the bottom. We'll put some getters and setters near sure, right here. Why not? Doesn't matter where you put them. I just like to somewhat keep things in order. So then we have the get and set for the Evergreen release. On the getter method, we need to now have the parent side one-to-one mapping. And I think that's where they had in their example the mapped by. So this is where we had mapped by. So what mapped by says is, hey, so that I know, because right now I'm in the lesson.java object, how do I know um, what the name of the lesson is inside of Evergreen Release? So you go to Evergreen Release and you say, hey, what was the name of that variable I used? Oh, we called it lesson. Okay, what's the name of the variable? It's lesson. So we can come back here and say it's mapped by lesson. Okay, good. Now, what else did they do? I think they had a cascade type or something. What did they have? Yeah, they had a cascade type. So we'll do cascade. Let's think. I always default to just saying cascade equals all. That's sort of what I always default to. Oh, sorry, I need to. Oh, come on, computer. I hate when I can think faster than my computer can act. So I need to import this one-to-one first so that it knows what the heck I'm talking about over here. So now when I say all, it'll do cascade type all. Okay. So before we just blindly, sorry, let me check my comments here. Hi, Trevor. Can we use Lombok? Yes, you can. Lombok to generate get setters. Yes, you can. So thus we get rid of the boilerplate code. Absolutely. What's your view on it? I don't mind it. I don't mind Lombok. The only problem is you need to install a plugin within your own IDE to use it. Um, and if you give your code base to someone else and they use it and it has the Lombok functionality at get or at getter and at setter annotations, it won't work. It won't. Their code won't compile or it won't work properly because the physical getters and setter code isn't written in there. So that's just one little, it's easily with communication you can just say, hey, you need to install this, follow these instructions, whatever. Um, so not a big deal, but I don't know. I guess I'm old school. I don't see the huge pain that comes along with writing a little bit of boilerplate code, but that's just me. I guess I'm a bit of a dinosaur. Will I provide the source code in Git? Absolutely not. And the reason why I will not is because Professo is a privately owned application, not publicly available. So I would need to invite you to my GitHub repo, and that's not something I'm going to do unless you work with me. So, um, good question though. Obviously, you'd want to know if I could supply the code. But no, I coded this myself and it took me years to code, and this is not a publicly available code base. Okay, so cascade type, getting back to cascade type. Normally I default to saying cascade type all, but you need to think about cascade type all. Maybe not so much with a one-to-one relationship. The many-to-many is where you need to think harder, but you just need to give it a quick thought and say, okay, if a lesson is deleted, okay, if I delete a lesson, would I want the corresponding Evergreen release object to be deleted? In other words, the row in the one-to-one relationship, would I also want it to be deleted as well? Okay, so if a lesson is deleted, do I want the schedule for this lesson, the Evergreen schedule for this lesson to also be deleted as well? Um, the answer is yes. I would want that to happen. You wouldn't want to have a situation where you had an orphaned row for this Evergreen release stuff for a lesson. Wouldn't make sense. So in which case, sure, cascade type all means cascade delete, right? So if I delete the lesson, go ahead and cascade delete the Evergreen release. That's cool. I'm okay with that. Same goes for saving and updating and all the other stuff, but the persist, merge, remove, refresh. Um, but the big one is remove. Do I want to also delete, get the Evergreen, or do I also want to delete the Evergreen release information if I delete a lesson as a parent? So yes, the answer is cool. Yes. So cascade type all makes sense. Okay. So we have our one-to-one relationship in here. We've got our Evergreen release object coded in. Now let's restart our server and see if it creates the table. Hopefully it will. And if it does, then I'll double check that it's correct. Oops. No identifier. Did I not say ID anywhere? I guess I did not. I said maps ID, but not ID. What do they do for their example? Oh, right. You have a separate ID field. Right. So on top of lesson, you will have another ID, or we'll just say ID here. Um, so really, this is a lesson ID. So if you wanted to be more explicit, you could say lesson ID. Um, maybe I will. I'll be explicit. So you'd have an at ID here, and we'll do the getters and setters as we just discussed. Where'd they go? There they are. Boom, 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 boom. At ID, and do I need to say generated value? Probably not, because we're specifying it's not a generated value. It's maps over here. At ID, and what's the other one? Column. I probably want to just say, hey, the column name is lesson underscore ID. Import from Java X persistence. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Double check for any more comments. No more comments. Okay. I'm slow on checking comments now because I'm only working on one screen. So normally I have two screens, so I can quickly glance over and see if there's been any comments. Whereas with this one, I need to actually open up a different tab. So okay, let's try this again. Where's my? Ooh, did I close console? Whoops, I closed the console. If you ever accidentally close your console, you can go to Window, Show View, Console, and it'll bring it back up. Let's reboot. Cross our fingers. I double clicked on console, did I not? I want to see full screen. Okay, so it started up. Did it create a database table anywhere? I don't see anywhere that it says it created a database table. I'm going to open up MySQL Workbench real quick. You guys won't see this, but which is actually kind of good. I think there's some semi-sensitive stuff on here that I probably wouldn't want you guys to see. Ooh, I think I might know why it didn't create it, because I might have a property, an invalid property set in here in application properties. Um, give me 1 second. Let me flip this over. You guys can look at that for a second. Um, yeah. Okay. Okay. So let me start up my application again. I know these live sessions are not anywhere near as well produced and thought out as the as my other videos, but again, that's by design. You guys get to see me struggle. So it says table not found, Evergreen Release, and therefore I would expect it to create the table, but I don't see that it did. And I'm wondering now, is it not able to? Does it not have the permissions? No, I think it's just slow. It's just slow. There we go. I was like, why is this taking so long? And now I just remembered it's just slow because that's just how the cookie crumbles. So table not found, I would have expected it to then create the table. And again, I don't see any thing where it did create the table. So give me a second. You guys can't see this, but off screen I am checking to see if it did create it, and I'm seeing that it did create it. I see an issue with my data type. So my where'd it go? Evergreen Release. The local time did not convert well, so that's going to be annoying. I'm gonna have to think about how I want to address that because I have like I said, I'm using an older code base. Newer code bases handle this properly. Um, excuse me, older code bases do not handle this very well because it is a bit of a newer data type. Uh, okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Maybe I'll just use time. Maybe I'll just use like a SQL time data type instead. Okay, so what I'll do now, let me add the screen now that I'm in there and it's less sensitive what I have on the screen. So let me give me a second. I'll add another window capture to this thing. I'll say workbench. I'll just say MySQL and then MySQL workbench. Okay. So I don't know why it's so small. It's it's weird. This whole application, this whole what you call it thing is weird. Let me move this up so that you see my beautiful face on screen. Fix my beautiful hair. Yeah. Um, yeah, like I need to drag this like this to make it bigger, and I don't know if that's going off screen for you guys now, or is that seem like it's the right size? Does MySQL fit? Oh, I see. It's showing. No, that's showing. Yeah. Anyway, let me know if the MySQL workbench is properly on the screen, fully on the screen. Um, anyway, point is over here, lesson ID we see is a primary key. Lesson ID in bold, primary key. Again, if you're on a mobile phone, it might be hard for you to see this, but trust me, it's bolded in the primary key, so that's good. Number of evergreen offset days is set to an integer type, which is great. But the evergreen offset time is set to tiny blob. Tiny blob is not the data type I was hoping for. The data type I was hoping for was just time. Okay, time is a data type in MySQL that represents, shockingly, time. So just the time. In other words, a 24-hour clock. But tiny blob is the data type it assigned to it because it didn't know how to map the what you call it. Um, it didn't know how to map local time. So there's a workaround for this. You should be using local time, local date time, or whatever. Any of the java.time package stuff. These are the latest and greatest data types for handling dates and times in the Java language. They came as of what? Java 8 or something? I don't remember. Actually, maybe I can click on F3 to look at. Yeah, since 1.8. So since Java 8, local time, local date, and local date time, as well as the actual ones that are tied to an actual time zone. I forget those data types. These are what you should be using. They're just better. They're just better. But I'm gonna have to change it to just time for now because I'm lazy. So this is a classic do as I say, not as I do. We're going to change it to just a time data type and import it from java.sql. Okay, so this is going to be a bit quirky. This is going to get weird um, when I use this time in my code, and we'll see how bad it is once we end up using it. Now, anyway, have I been looking at the? I've been showing you SQL. I've been showing you what? Hold on. Oh shoot! I've been showing you the MySQL, and I've been talking about the professional code. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. Anyway, that's all right because I'm about to go back to MySQL. So for this guy, I want to say drop table Evergreen Release. I'm dropping it so that the code will re-add it. Drop table done. Now let me switch back to which is it? This one? Yeah. Apologies for doing exactly what I said I was going to do, which is talk about the Java code while not showing you the Java code. You want some classes on microservices, cloud, and AWS. I do have an AWS course, but it's not. It is a bare minimum, just what you need to know to get started, and it's not very in depth at all. So if you're just looking to learn how to take yourself out of localhost 8080 and deploy something onto the web for somewhat testing purposes, not really production purposes, then sure, I have a course for that. It does not talk about microservices, though. It's just AWS. If you're interested in that, I can post a link. Um, anyway, so code. What I did, I was talking about it and wasn't showing you this. I changed the data type here. This was local time. Now it's just time. And if you look at what I've imported from java.sql, and this is the old import, which I will now delete because we're not using it. So I had dropped the table. Let's go ahead and relaunch Professo and cross our fingers that it will. Um, update. What is this? IO error? Okay. This is going to take, about a minute for it to fire up properly. It'll say, yeah, table not found. Good, right? We want it to say table not found because we we dropped the table. So that makes sense. We wait. My phone was going crazy. I can check and make sure that I'm not missing anything important. Just responding to messages. Nothing is on fire. Okay, there we go. We booted up 61 seconds. Cool, cool, cool. So I'm just going to flip over to my database real quick and check out. So I can, you guys don't see this, but I can tell you that now the Evergreen offset time data type in my database has been updated from tiny blob, which is not what I wanted, to be time, which is what I wanted. So that's good. So in terms of, it took me almost, how long have I been streaming right now? And I'm also checking out my son is sleeping and I'm looking at the baby monitor. He might be waking up from his nap soon, as always. Um, Now that, yeah, it took me how long to get here? How long have I been streaming for? And 36 minutes. Actually, that's not too terrible. Uh, hey Trevor, is there a way I can access your old live videos? Yes, I think so. On the YouTube channel of mine, I think there's a section for live videos, if I'm not mistaken. I can double check that very quickly for you. If you go to my channel, can I check that for you quickly? No, I cannot. I don't know how to do it quickly. Um, Oh, wait, view channel on YouTube. Maybe I can do it quickly. Yes. So videos, uploads, playlists, created playlists, live videos. But that's not updated. Good question then. I don't know how to go back and look at all the live videos. Um, it might just be in the videos list. Yes. Okay. So you just go to my YouTube channel and I'll paste that in the chat. And in the video section, you'll be able to see the live videos. I just pasted the channel link in there. So, okay, it took me a while, but we got to the point where we have created a one-to-one relationship between our Evergreen release and our lesson. So, cool. Now the next step is, let me go to my task list. Where is it? Tasks. What did I just do? Did I deleted this? No. So now I can add an offset number of days. Yes, done, and also add time. So I'm going to delete these two to-do items. 1, 2, gone, gone, and I'll save it. And those will drop off my tasks list. Oops. It's also going to reboot and steal my screen. I guess that's why you don't put the task down here because it just keeps flipping over. Maybe I can drag it over here and make the screen slightly bigger. Okay, what's next? Add security check. Meh. Likely this is where we can modify the course. Meh. This is where you should do the calculation, and this might be what I want next. Right, get is live. So in the previous lesson, I talked about transient. I can give a really quick update on this right now. So inside of our lesson object, again, like we said, represents the lesson table. And because it is an entity being a Java persistence, Java X persistence entity, just means it's a database table. Because it is set up as that, any getter setter here will automatically create and be mapped to a database column. So title will get mapped to the title column in the database. Free lesson will be mapped to a column with that name. Release date will be mapped to same thing, column with that name, etc., until you get to transient. If you, mark something as transient, what that will do is it will ignore it. It will say, oh, this is live which would normally become a database column for the lesson table, because I've marked it as transient, it will not. It will ignore it. So the reason why I'm doing this is I don't. This is a moving target. This is live concept. It's a moving target, therefore it doesn't represent something that should be stored in a database. It doesn't make sense to store this in a database because we're doing a check to see. It's more like a service. Is kind of what this is. This is probably a better place for this to be in a service, but I put it in the lesson because it suited my needs on the front end. So what I call get is live, or rather is live for a lesson, it will figure that out on the fly. Okay, so the first thing that we do is we check to see, one, is the lesson published, because there's a property for published. If it's published, cool. Now check and see if there's a release date set. If there is a release date set, make sure that today, or the release date is before today. Today literally meaning right now, this instant, this second. It will check against that. In other words, if the release date, if the video has already been released, then cool, we should make it accessible. That's existing functionality. This is not the new functionality that we're working on with this whole Evergreen thing. So with this whole Evergreen thing, this is where we want to add an additional check to see that concept. So this is where we should do the calculation to determine if we have an evergreened lesson. If so, should it be live or not? Here's the tricky part. Here is the tricky part. This is based off of the user start date. So I remember feeling like maybe this actually wasn't the perfect spot for it. Where was it that I had uh, security check? There was a piece of code. There was a piece of code where I outlined what the heck? I'm trying to remember. Think. There was a piece of code where we were iterating through all the orders. So if you placed an order for a course, it was iterating through the orders, and then it iterated through the offers that existed in the orders. And I was like, oh, it seems like this is the spot that I need to modify the code. Let me just check and see if I can go and find that easily. I feel like it was, let's see what else. Let me just look at the controller. This is our security check. This is the one where when we looked at an actual lesson, was it in here? This was the stuff for the free user, validate purchase course, current. Right here, populate model. Yes, it was in populate model. Yes, okay, here we go. See, here's the to-do. Likely this is where we can modify. Did that not show up in my task list? It's literally right here. Okay, so it was a second item on my to-do list. Oy vey. Okay. Looks like my sun is up now, so I got to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So this is the next step. So this is where we can modify the course object to sections to lessons to tweak the isLive property. Right, that's how I was going to do it. I was going to manually change the isLive property based on, now that I know the order date. Yes, based on whether or not it has an evergreen. Yeah. Okay, I remember now. So because inside of this code, I'm pointing at my screen, like you guys can see me pointing at my own screen. Let me maximize this for a second. We're going through all the orders here. So the whole point of this is to say, hey, we're going to populate all of the lessons into that sidebar on the screen inside of Professo. If I go over here and flip the video capture up here in Professo on the left-hand side, this is where all the lessons are. All these lessons here get populated in the code right here. So model.put course. So course, the object contains all the lessons, all the sections, all the everything. So this is what I need to modify. I need to modify the course, which is right here. If the offer contains course, then go in here and mess around with the offer. Now, I guess it doesn't necessarily need to be as part of the offer. I'm trying to think if that's necessary because I pass in the course, I believe. Because where does it come from? Right here. So we already know the course that we're populating, or we already know the course that we're dealing with. Um, we're just checking here to see if they're delinquent on the course. So in other words, if they try to access their course and they haven't paid their bill, if they have a monthly subscription or something, then we should kick them out and say, hey, no, pay your bill first, then you can get access to the course. What does this do though? Offer, if it contains the course, then I think it's just populating some helpful stuff. Yeah, it's just populating helpful stuff on the model. That's all it's doing. Yeah, that's all this is doing. And then we're putting that, yeah, okay. That's just a reference check. So for the course then, I think we could just go through the lessons. Let me just say course dot get sections dot stream. So we'll stream through each of the sections. This is essentially a for each loop. So for each section, uh, get me the lesson flat map. Sorry, I want to flat map it out. I think. Wait. Map first, then we flat map. I think. It's been a while since I've done this. You'll have to bear with me for a second. Let me just check my comments, see if anyone is bringing anything up. I don't think so. I think we're all good. So first we're iterating through each of the sections. So as we're iterating through the sections, a section like this, a section has a bunch of properties, right? A lot of get methods here, but we want to get the lessons. So we want to get lessons, right? And then we want to flat map that out. So we do, well, usually it's what, collections stream or something. So we want to stream that flat map. Does that not work? Set stream. There we go. We want to stream the lesson. So now we've got a lesson. Now we can map again a lesson and lesson dot get, and we can get the what? We can get the Evergreen Release, right? Because that's kind of what we care about is that Evergreen Release object, and then do something with it. Now I just realized we want to be. I just cut that out. Oh no, where'd I go? Where am I? Here I am. I want the order. I want information about the order. So um, I actually want to put this code here. I want to stream through the course here inside of the order because I want to get that evergreen release, and then I want to essentially mess around with it. Now, this might the correct way to do this might not be inside of streams. I might actually need to create a for each loop here, a regular old for each loop, to figure this out, because I think I need to modify the lessons. Um, uh, Maybe I can do, instead of doing a map, I can do a for each lesson. Is that how we do it? Lesson dot get. Yeah. So I can say get is live, right? Or rather set is live. Oh, right, because there is no setter for that because it's a transient. 1 second. Get is live. Do I even have a variable for that? No, I don't. I've already, there's no corresponding variable for this. So I'll need to introduce a variable, an instance variable, which should be okay because the instance variable relates to the actual individual lessons. So I think that's still okay. I can say private, just like we have an is published here, we can have private boolean is live, and we can initialize it to false. Oops. So by default, it's always false, just like we did for published. And then here, we can have it say if blah, 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 return true, else we can say return what you call it, is live. Actually, no, we could just say return false. Sorry, let me roll back the code. I just remembered the setter. No, no, no. I do want to say is live, because then I want to have a setter method, which I don't know if you have to set the if we have to set it to be a transient for when you do a setter method, because I think that should be enough. Um, Set is live, and you pass in a boolean is live, and then you can say this dot is live equals is live, right? So that way we have a way to modify the instance variable. Instance variable set as false by default. If we are in this situation and this is the way it is, then it returns true. Otherwise, it returns the value of is live, which is default false. But then as we're going through here, nope, not there. Where was it? Here, yes. We can say lesson.set is live, right? So we can set it to true based on something. I don't obviously want to set them all to be true for is live, but I can say if lesson.get evergreen release, isn't null, and my son's up now. I need to, we're working on potty training. He's gonna pee the bed, and it's gonna totally be daddy's fault because he's what's the word? Engulfed in his work here. Um, my wife is gonna kill me. So, but I want to get this out because we're very close here to not being completely done, but getting the scaffolding in place. So we can essentially say, hey, if the evergreen release is not null, um, then good, keep going and say, get the order. There we go. That's what I want. We're iterating through the order right here. So I can actually say order dot get created date. There, that's what I want. So I can say, hey, based on the order's created date, um, based on the created date and as it compares to now, that's right, I'm actually gonna have to know what now is, right? So I have a whole bunch of garbage code right now, but I can say get, date today equals new date. And I can say, I can try to find the delta between today and order.get created date, right? So you can kind of go, oops, sorry, I'm going too quick now. Hover over this and import this as a Java util. And I know I just said to you guys, you shouldn't be using date, you should be using local date, but always do as I say, not as I do. So you can say today dot get time, which gets you the number of milliseconds since 1970 or something. And you can say that minus the order dot get created date, get start date. No, it's created date. It's just being silly. So long, difference equals. Is that not? Okay, and then let me get rid of this code below. Oh, dot get time. Dot get time, because both of these are date objects. So there you go. Now you have the difference. So this is the difference in milliseconds between these two dates. Based on that, you can determine how many days difference there are between them, right? So this is the millisecond difference or millisecond delta, if you will, between these two times. And based on that, you can figure out how many days there are between these two times. And then based on the number of days there are between these two times, you can then set the is live property for each lesson, so long as they have an evergreen, schedule set up. If they don't have any evergreen schedule set up, then don't even worry about it, right? So really what I should be doing is filtering, right? I should flat map and then say filter before I get to the for each and say lesson dot get evergreen release, right? Is not null or something like that, right? So they have to have an evergreen release in order for us to care about all this, right? So if they do have an evergreen release, this will return true on a filter, which means that it will then go to the next step and will be passed along to the for each here, and then we can go along and do it like we just said. So convert millisecond delta to number of days, and compare that against um, uh, lesson dot get evergreen release dot get evergreen days, or whatever it was, right? Day delta or something. So you could do that. The structuring, the scaffolding is in place, and then if that all makes sense, then you set it to be true. So in other words, if the difference, the delta, is bigger than the number of days set in the get evergreen days, is it called get evergreen days? Anyway, whatever that property was, um, if the delta is bigger, then that means we've passed the threshold, meaning we should make the lesson live now. That's what we can do. So we can modify that, and then downstream, that'll modify the course, and downstream on the front end, it'll just work, because the front end looks for the get is live flag, and as to whether or not it should display it on the screen. So, all right. Having said that, although I did not get to completely finish this live stream today, um, I didn't do too horribly. I now have more or less all the kinks worked out, more or less. I would like to figure out how to alt tab and actually have it show what I'm alt tabbing, so I don't have to remember to go and manually switch stuff. But I think it did all right. I think I did all right. So thank you very much for watching. I guess my next live stream might be sometime this weekend, where I hope to finish off this code. Um, if not, then yeah, I'll probably see you guys throughout the next week. So there you go. That's really all I have for now. Thanks very much. I'm going to go tend to my son. Have a great weekend, everyone. It's going to be a great weekend, great weather here. Hopefully it is for you as well. And for those of you, I'm in Canada. For those of you in the US right now, our thoughts are with you guys. Keep it real. Try to stay positive. Easy for me to say here in Canada. I'm not living through that stuff right now. But yeah, I want to take a moment to just address and say out loud, um, I'm thinking about you guys. So hopefully we can all get through this time. Hopefully 2020 will wrap up as being, hopefully the second half of 2020 is very boring. That's all I want at this point. I, that's all I want. So yeah, I'll try to keep positive over here as well, and just try to keep putting this stuff out, and distracting you guys with some hopefully fun learning throughout these live streams. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Take care of yourself. As always, happy learning, and bye for now.